President Trump attended a G7 summit in Canada today where he discussed the Israel-Iran conflict. And joining us now is CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang that you saw right there. Weijia, very good to see you. The president did not sign a joint statement among the other G7 leaders about this conflict. What is the White House saying about that?
So the other world leaders put this agreement together to basically call for the de-escalation of tensions between Israel and Iran. But sources say the president has already made his position in the U.S. policy on this abundantly clear. And he has, from the very beginning, saying that Iran still has an opportunity to strike a deal and that they should de-escalate. And so the White House says that the U.S. is back to leading the effort to restore peace around the world and insists that the president will continue to work toward ensuring Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. And it's not out of the ordinary for President Trump not to sign on to a communique like this or to some sort of agreement. In fact, famously, during his first time as president, he signed it and then on his way back to the United States pulled out of it. But in this case, it's not necessarily because he disagrees with the substance of what the other world leaders are calling for, but because they believe he has already made the U.S. position so explicit.
And Weijia, let's talk about trade. What do we know about the president's conversation with his fellow leaders on reaching new deals on that front?
Well, one of them just ended with an official agreement. You'll remember back in May that the U.S. and the U.K. agreed to and announced a trade agreement, but they have signed it, we are told. And really, this is the first and only big agreement that has actually been formalized in this way. But he has been meeting with other world leaders. We know that he spoke with the head of the EU, the European Union, which, of course, is one of our biggest trading partners, along with the Canadian Prime Minister. And so the president says there are many more deals to come. They are on the way. But so far, Nancy, just the one with the UK has been made official.
The absence of Russia's Vladimir Putin has also been noted from these meetings. The president addressed that today. What did he have to say about that?
Yeah, so this used to be the G8, which included Russia. But back in 2014, the other 7 leaders voted to essentially kick Russia out of this group because it moved to annex Crimea. And, you know, it remains the U.S. policy not to acknowledge or recognize Crimea as part of Russia. Of course, that is a big reason why Russia and Ukraine are fighting now, along with other pieces of land in dispute. The president said it was a big mistake to remove Russia from the G8. And he said that, you know, if they were still in the group, then there would not be a war right now. He didn't go as far as to say that Russia should be readmitted given the current circumstances, but he did say that it was not the right move to kick Russia out.
Weijia Jiang, always very good to see you. Thank you, Weijia.